I'm Matt Weaver, and for my English 104 class here at Ball State University, we were asked to write a research paper. I did my paper on media bias and how that affects society and people's views. Do you think media bias is a real thing? Do you think you know what media bias is? Okay, would you say that media bias is real or fake? Well, today around campus, we're going to ask people some questions on what they feel about media bias, whether it's real, whether they pay attention to the news and media, and who they think media bias affects. Cuts from me voiceovering to this.
Okay.
I know no safe depository of the ultimate powers of society but the people themselves. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion by education. This is the true corrective of abusive of constitutional power. Thomas Jefferson wrote that in a letter to William C. Jarvis in 1820. In that quote, Jefferson is speaking of the power of informed citizenry in a democracy. But he also was speaking of the perils of an uninformed citizenship. If people aren't informed enough to make smart decisions in who governs them and what decisions those people make, society is left lost. Often in today's world, media bias is blamed for events in the world and how they go. From LGBTQ issues to riots in Baltimore, media is constantly bantered with issues over whether they are biased for some sort of ulterior motive or some sort of monetary gain. But the true factor in this is the people themselves. If the people don't take it upon themselves to inform, then media bias really can affect them. But if they do know what they're talking about, it can't. Okay, I'm Matt, and you guys are all of the age 18, right?
Yes.
You know, for legal purposes. Do you feel like not just Ball State students, but people in our age in general pay attention to like current events and what's going on in the world as far as like social issues and politics? No?
Not as much as they should.
I feel like we all feel like we do.
Yeah.
But it really doesn't, like we don't understand what we think we understand.
How much do you pay attention to the news and current events?
Well, you kind of asked a funny person. I am going to graduate and I'm doing the weather for a news station. So
you pay
I pay a decent amount of attention. Not a lot, but a decent amount.
Not very often. Not that I don't want to, I just don't really have easy access to it.
Okay.
I like to spend a lot of time just because, I like to be kept to the up-to-date information, so as much as possible. Somewhat, yeah.
Somewhat?
I feel like we get most of our information from like social media.
Yeah,
That's what a lot of people
Yeah, the majority of information people get is via Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I would say for sure, not the most reliable sources.
I would say more so on social media than anything, and I'd say more of like what's current now, not necessarily like how that has formed throughout our lives.
So kind of like a short attention span.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know what media bias is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you say that media bias is real or fake?
I'd say real.
Real?
Yeah, definitely. If someone is acting like this is the right thing, then it's easy to believe that rather than do your own research.
Yeah, definitely. If you only show one side of the story, everyone's going to believe that side of the story, and there's something totally different that's on the other side that they're not showing you.
Now, I know a lot of you may be wondering, what exactly is media bias? Well, according to Merriam-Webster, media bias is the biased or perceived bias of journalists and news producers within mass media in the selection of events and stories that are reported and how they are covered. Pretty much what that means is, media bias is how we perceive that some news agencies in certain places have certain leanings, and how they report those things and which issues they choose to report. And who do you think it affects more? Like groups of people who pay attention a lot to the news, or people who don't really focus on it and just see the headlines? What groups do you think are more susceptible to their ideas being formed by headlines?
I'd say those that pay attention more so to the headlines, and it's just like you said, that short attention span.
And do you think that has a detrimental effect on the society as a whole?
I'd say yeah, because you can't really judge a book by its cover. You kind of want to read more into what is actually.
People that are more that don't really pay attention, that don't have like social media and Twitter and like
Okay.
Instagram and all that.
Yeah. Okay. And in this upcoming election, who would you prefer to be the winner? Donald Trump or Curtis Jackson?
Curtis Jackson.
Can I can't cuss, right?
First off, would you say that you pay attention to like current events and like social issues in the media?
I would say absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So like not at all.
I mean, like, are you talking like politics or just social issues?
Just
in society?
in general.
I mean, I
Politics,
guess
but
you could
also just,
say
like, social
more or
issues,
less,
just,
more or
like,
less.
What would you say is like the biggest issue in America to you?
I would say the sensitivity of different social groups towards certain things that other social groups say. I'm not gonna say specifics, but
Okay.
yeah.
Would you say that other people like around you and like from seeing your friends or people you associate with have the same level of like paying attention to the news, or you say you pay attention less than the average person? Or more?
I guess it just depends on like where you were raised and what you were brought up around.
Okay. So people like in our age group, for example, just in general.
Yeah, I mean like, but like where you were raised. So like when I used to live in Doherty, I met people who told me like that they had never been to school with a black person before. So I mean like where I was raised, I went to a very mixed high school and like stuff like that. So I'm saying like it's different depending on where you're brought up.
So like
what specifically?
if you had to put a
are you
percentage of people who like pay attention on a regular basis of our, just for example, Ball State here, like what percentage of people would you say like?
I'd say a good 76 because many people tend to use the word "I feel like" a lot without being properly educated about social and political things going on in the world today. So like, I feel like it's something that you say when you're not completely educated about something, but you just have sentiment and like some background knowledge of what you're talking about.
Do you think media bias is a real thing?
Yes. People get paid off all the time. Like, I'm sure their funding comes from certain people who support certain people, and they're going to make them look better than other people.
And what groups of people do you think are more affected by viewing like biased media?
I would say big political figureheads. Like, an example, have you guys ever seen Broad City?
Yeah.
That TV show? Recently, Hillary Clinton was on an episode of Broad City.
Uh-huh.
And it was lit. Like, they were promoting her campaign in a TV show. So I was just like,
That's kind of cool.
media bias.
Yeah. Too often, in discussions of media bias and its effect on young people, are the opinions of those young people left out. Who do young people think media bias affects? Do they think it's real? Why do they think it's an issue? Or do they even think it's an issue? I set out across Ball State University to find that out. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it got you thinking about media bias, who it affects, whether it affects you, and whether or not you keep yourself socially informed enough to make smart decisions when it comes to our politics. Thank you.